Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Chapter 6 in our book, Theodore Roosevelt, The Adventurous President. Before we begin Chapter 6, I just want to take a minute and think about all of the events and things that happened in Teddy Roosevelt's life up until now, because something that this author is doing that I think is a wonderful writing strategy is that he's connecting pieces of Teddy's past to what is happening to him in his present, not our present, in his present. So in the beginning of the book, he really talked about a lot about Teddy's love of nature and him always trying to do the best for people and the people that might be less fortunate for him. And they keep on referring back to a couple of key sentences that we're going to see again in this chapter. And when we get to them, we're going to take a minute and really discuss why we think the author keeps on adding these sentences. So, president for a square deal. Newspaper writers had always liked Teddy. He did so many unusual things that he often made news. The Spanish-American War ended to Teddy's fame. Now, just take a minute. The reason why they refer to it as Teddy's fame is because you remember in the last chapter, him and the Rough Riders won that war. They felt that Spain blew up one of our ships, later to find out that they didn't, and they decided to go to war with Spain, and they won. So that is what they're adding in to his fame. He was a great hero. By the end of 1898, he had been elected governor of New York. So he was an assemblyman of New York, he was the police commissioner of New York, and now he's moved up to governor of New York. Voters loved Teddy. Voters are the people that vote. They say that this is who they want to be in the politics for their state. Reporters loved to write about him too. But Republican leaders weren't so sure they trusted him as governor. So let me clarify this for a minute. What is the reason the Republican Party wasn't sure about Teddy? Because they said they couldn't trust him? But Teddy hasn't done anything that would make you not trust him. I wonder what that statement means. We're going to have to see if we could pick that back up later on. And do you think that if the Republican Party didn't trust him, that's going to affect him being in government, him being in politics? Teddy was too popular and hard to control. He did what he thought was right, not what the party leaders wanted him to do. So there is it. So the Republican Party didn't trust him because they knew he was going to do what he thought was right and not what they wanted him to do. Okay. The leaders had an idea. In the next election, Teddy should be President Kinley's running mate for vice president. So if you remember in the last chapter, he was Secretary of the Navy for President McKinley. Now they're saying that he should run as his vice president. They thought he might listen more to the Republican Party leaders as vice president than he did as the governor of New York. The McKinley-Roosevelt team won the election, and they took office on March 4th, 1901. But the team didn't last too long. On September 6th, President McKinley was shot. He died 8 days later. Theodore Roosevelt became the President of the United States. I want to go back for a minute because I'm making a connection here. The author said before that the Republican Party didn't trust him because they couldn't control what he was doing because he did what he thought was right. Now he's just become President of the United States. Do you think the Republican Party not trusting him is going to affect the way he's going to run the country? Do you think it's going to have an influence on him? Let's see if we get some answers. Teddy was 42 when he became the youngest U.S. president. As president, he surprised everyone. He tried to make the country do what he thought it should. He used his power in a new way. Friends, before we started reading the chapter, I said that the author uses a couple of sentences over and over again in the book, and this is one of them. He used this sentence, he used his power in a new way, 2 other times in this book. Can you remember when those 2 other times were? Number 1, when he became assemblyman. He changed how politicians gave jobs. Instead of giving them to people that they knew, he changed it. They had to give jobs to people that earned them. And when he became police commissioner, he did things his way too. He stopped cops from breaking the law and made them have accountability for their job. And he began helping the less fortunate by making sure bosses paid the correct wage. So this line has been used 2 times in this book before, and that must mean it is a very special line that the author wants the readers to keep on going back to making those connections throughout the story. So we made those connections. First, he went after the railroads. He wanted to make sure they didn't join together to set high prices. When companies compete for customers, prices go down. If companies agree not to compete, prices go up. That's a monopoly, and it's against the law. Again, this is the 3rd time, if I remember, that the author put a definition right into the paragraph. I love when he does that, because if I don't know what it means, all I have to do is reread it. For years, many businesses had ignored this law. Teddy changed it. He told business owners that they must not join together to keep prices high. They would have to compete against one another for customers, or he would make sure they were brought to trial. He began with the railroads, but it didn't stop there. As president, he used the law 45 times. Teddy used his power again to end a strike in the coal mines of Pennsylvania. Miners had stopped working because they wanted to be paid more and to work only 8-hour days. The owners wanted them to work more hours. So there's that connection back to getting paid the right wage for the work that you do. And we saw that when he was assemblyman. The mine owners said that they would not talk to the miners. They would just wait until the strikers gave up. Strikers, and if you're unfamiliar with that term, if someone is on strike, that means that they stop working, that they will not go to work until their boss meets them halfway and they can make a deal together. So a striker is a person who is on strike. But winter was coming. Teddy knew that people needed coal to make heat. He said the owners had to talk to the miners. If they didn't, Teddy would bring the U.S. soldiers to work for the mines. The mines would run, but the owners wouldn't get paid. So the owners gave in. The workers got paid an 8-hour day. Teddy wasn't trying to favor the workers over the owners. He did what he thought was fair, and that's a great sentence. He wasn't saying one was better than another. He just wanted both of them to be fair. He said all people should have a square deal or a fair one. My friends, a square deal is a term used in history, and this is probably what Teddy Roosevelt is most famous for. If you look up his name on Google, square deal will come right up with it, because he was the one president that tried to make sure that everyone got paid their right wage for the work that they did, and that's how they termed it square deal. It's no surprise that Teddy used his power to protect nature. As president, he set aside about 230 million acres of land. From Puerto Rico to Alaska, there are wild areas you can visit today because Teddy made them parks a century ago. Does this seem like something Teddy Roosevelt would do? Of course, he loved nature. He loved animals. He loved the idea of protecting our nature. Do you remember the word for a person who likes to protect our nature? A conservationist? Good word there. So yes, I could see this as something that Teddy Roosevelt definitely did. Teddy had another great plan. He wanted to build a canal in Central America. In 1900s, sailing from Florida to California took a very long time. Ships had to travel all the way around Central and South America. The trip was about 15,000 miles. Today, Teddy wanted to build a shortcut. Panama was the best place for it. In Panama, a very narrow strip of land separates the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean. But there was a problem. Colombia didn't want the U.S. to build the canal. So the people of Panama decided to break away from Colombia. Teddy sent U.S. soldiers to help Panama fight. When Panama became a separate country, the U.S. could build that canal. Work on the canal began in 1904. Teddy was re-elected as president the same year. In 1914, the first ship sailed through the canal. Now ships could move more quickly around the world. The canal helped the U.S. become a world power. During his second term, Teddy kept up his conservation work. He helped make it illegal to sell food and drugs that were not pure and clean. And in 1906, he won the Nobel Peace Prize, a very important award for helping to end the war between Russia and Japan. My friends, winning or earning, really, that Nobel Peace Prize is a huge honor for someone to receive. And Teddy earned that by helping the war between Russia and Japan stop. And I know he felt proud of himself. But do you think there might be another reason, something in his past, that would make him feel even more prouder for winning that prize? Maybe something to do with his dad? I don't know. Take a moment and think about that. Teddy used the power of his office in a new way. He helped make laws that were fair for everyone. He pushed the country to act like a world power. My friends, I want you to take today's chapter and I want you to make some connections like I did from what they're talking about in this chapter to ideas that they're talking about in chapters before this. Because usually someone's life events kind of mold them or lead them to do certain things later in life. And that's what's happening in this story so far. Certain things that Teddy Roosevelt did while he was president kind of stem back from when he was younger or different jobs that he had. So if you can make one or two connections for me in the comment section under this video, I can't wait to read them. And see you again tomorrow for Chapter 7 of Teddy Roosevelt's biography. Have a good day, everyone.